Maybe it's for the best, dear. Some bloodlines shouldn't be mixed. These things happen for a reason. The hospital room went silent. My mother's hand froze on my shoulder. Jacob's father stopped mid-sentence. Even the nurse by the door turned to stare. Michelle, my sister-in-law, stood at the foot of my hospital bed, fresh from the delivery room where I'd just lost my second baby, and smiled that cold smile I'd come to know too well. My mother-in-law, Patricia, gasped. Michelle, I'm just being honest, Michelle interrupted, adjusting her designer purse. Evelyn needs to hear the truth. Not everyone is meant to be a mother. That was the moment everything changed. Not because of what she said, though those words would haunt me for months, but because of what I decided to do about it. Hit that subscribe button, because what happened next will make your blood boil, and then make you stand up and cheer. Let me back up and tell you how I got here. My name is Evelyn Sanchez Harrison. I'm 32 years old, and up until that moment in the hospital, I'd spent 5 years of my marriage trying to be the good daughter-in-law to a family that never wanted me in the first place. I met Jacob Harrison when I was 27, working double shifts at a family-owned Mexican restaurant in Portland to pay off my student loans. He came in one rainy Tuesday night, laptop open, looking exhausted. We got to talking. He was impressed that I spoke 3 languages fluently: English, Spanish, and Portuguese. I was impressed that he actually listened when I talked about my dreams of starting my own translation and cultural consulting business. Jacob came from what people call old money. Well, old by Oregon standards. His family ran Harrison & Sons Construction, a third-generation company that built half the commercial buildings in Portland. They weren't billionaires, but they were comfortable. Country club, comfortable. Private school, comfortable. Wee summer in Newport, comfortable. I came from a different world entirely. My mother, Rosa, crossed the border from Oaxaca when she was 19, pregnant with me, fleeing an abusive relationship. My father, an American citizen she met in Mexico, promised to help her, but disappeared before I was born. Mom cleaned houses, worked in kitchens, sent me to public school with holes in my shoes and determination in my heart. I got into Portland State on a full scholarship. Graduated summa cum laude. Built a life through sheer force of will. When Jacob proposed after 2 years of dating, I thought I'd won the lottery, not because of money, but because I'd found genuine love. Someone who saw me for who I was, not where I came from. I should have paid more attention to the warning signs. Michelle, Jacob's older sister, made her feelings clear from day one. At our engagement party, she pulled me aside. Just so we're clear, we've had family money for 3 generations. We're very protective of it at the bridal shower. Make sure you sign that prenup, sweetie. We can't be too careful these days. At the wedding, well, at least your dress was affordable. Every comment, every slight, every reminder that I didn't belong. I swallowed it all, smiled through it, because I loved Jacob and believed love would be enough. It wasn't, not for Michelle, and especially not after I got pregnant the first time. The first miscarriage happened at 10 weeks. We'd waited until after the first trimester to tell family, or at least we'd planned to, but Michelle had a way of showing up uninvited, and she'd caught me looking at prenatal vitamins at the pharmacy. "Oh my God, are you pregnant?" she squealed, loud enough for half the store to hear. "Mom is going to be thrilled. She's been waiting for a real Harrison grandchild." Real. That word hung in the air. "Michelle, we wanted to wait." "Don't be silly. This is family news." She was already texting Patricia. 2 weeks later, I started bleeding at work. Jacob rushed me to the ER. The ultrasound tech's face told me everything before she said the words. "I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat. The thing about miscarriage that nobody tells you, is how public it becomes. Suddenly, everyone who knew you were pregnant is asking questions, offering condolences, sharing their own stories. Some people are kind, others, "Well, you're young, you can try again," Patricia said, patting my hand at the family dinner a week later. "These things happen, especially with—" Michelle trailed off meaningfully, glancing at my mother, who was serving tamales she'd made for the occasion. "With what?" Jacob asked sharply. "Nothing, just that first pregnancies are unpredictable." She smiled. "I'm sure the next one will take." Mum's hands shook as she set down the serving dish. She'd learned over the years not to respond to Michelle's barbs. I'd learned the same. The next few months were a blur of grief and trying again. Jacob was supportive, holding me when I cried, going to support groups, reading books about loss. But there was a distance growing between us, made worse by Michelle's constant presence. She'd show up at family dinners with her daughters, 8-year-old Sophia and 6-year-old Emma, perfect blonde angels in matching outfits. She'd talk endlessly about their achievements, their playdates, their expensive private school. "Motherhood is just so fulfilling," she'd say, looking directly at me. "I can't imagine my life without my girls." Her husband Brad would shift uncomfortably. Even he seemed embarrassed by her behavior. But he never stopped her. 6 months after the first loss, I got pregnant again. This time, we told no one except my mother. We made it to 12 weeks, then 14, then 16. I started to believe. At our 20-week ultrasound, we found out we were having a girl. Jacob cried. I cried. We picked out a name, Isabella Rosa, after both our mothers. "We should tell the family," Jacob said that night, holding the ultrasound photo, like it was made of glass. I hesitated. Something in me, some instinct, said to wait. But Jacob looked so happy, so hopeful. "Okay," I agreed. "This weekend, at your parents' house." We planned a small announcement dinner. Mum made my favorite mole. Jacob's parents opened a bottle of champagne, sparkling cider for me. Even Michelle seemed genuinely pleased, hugging me with what felt like real warmth. "I'm so happy for you," she said. "This is going to be wonderful." I allowed myself to believe her. 3 days later, at 22 weeks, I woke up in a pool of blood. The ambulance, the emergency room, the doctor's grim face. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Harrison. Your daughter's heart has stopped. They had to induce labor." I delivered Isabella at midnight. Tiny, perfect, gone. They let me hold her for an hour. Jacob sobbed into my shoulder. The nurses were angels in scrubs, giving us time, space, privacy. And then, somehow, someone called the family. I was still in the delivery room, still processing what had happened, when Patricia and Michelle walked in. Patricia brought flowers and tears. Michelle brought judgment. "Oh, honey," Patricia whispered, kissing my forehead. "I'm so sorry." "This must be devastating," Michelle added, sitting in the chair by my bed like she had been invited. "But maybe—" "Michelle, not now," Jacob said, sharply from the corner. "I'm just saying maybe this is God's way of—" "Get out," I said quietly. She blinked. "Excuse me?" "Get out." Michelle didn't leave. Instead, she leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs like we were having afternoon tea. "Evelyn, I understand you're emotional right now, but I drove all the way here to support you." "Support me?" My voice cracked. "You want to support me?" My mother had arrived by then, rushing in with worried eyes. She immediately came to my bedside, taking my hand. Her presence gave me strength. "Mija, what's wrong? Besides—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Michelle glanced at my mother, and something shifted in her expression. Something ugly, that she'd been hiding for 5 years finally came to the surface. "I was just trying to help Evelyn see the bigger picture," Michelle said. "These losses, they might be for the best. Some bloodlines shouldn't be mixed. These things happen for a reason." The room went still. It wasn't just what she said, though that was horrific enough. It was how she said it, looking between me and my mother, making sure we both understood exactly what she meant. My mother's face went pale, then red. She stood up, and I'd never seen her look like that before, like she was ready to fight. "What did you just say to my daughter?" "Rosa, I didn't mean—" Patricia started, horrified. "No, I want to hear her say it again," Mom interrupted, her English suddenly crisp and clear, without the accent she usually had. "Say what you really mean, Michelle." Michelle had the audacity to look offended. "I'm just being realistic. Medical complications can be genetic, and with Evelyn's background—" "My background?" I heard my voice from far away, cold and steady. "You mean my Mexican background? Is that what you're saying? That my baby died because I'm not white enough for the Harrison family bloodline? That's not what I—" "Get out!" Jacob roared, suddenly moving from the corner, his face twisted with rage I'd never seen. "Get out right now before I call security." "Jacob, you're overreacting. You just told my wife, who is lying in a hospital bed after delivering our dead daughter, that our baby died because of her race." He was shaking. "Get out before I do something I regret." Patricia grabbed Michelle's arm. "We're leaving. Michelle, now." "But I didn't mean—" "Now." They left, the door closed. Jacob sat beside me, put his head in his lap and sobbed. My mother held me while I stared at the ceiling, feeling something inside me harden into steel. The grief would come later. The crushing weight of losing Isabella, the physical pain, the empty arms and empty nursery, all of that would hit me in waves over the following weeks. But in that moment, lying in that hospital bed, with my mother's hand in mine and my husband breaking down beside me, I made a decision. I would never let anyone make me feel less than again. Not Michelle, not anyone. I would build something so undeniably successful that no one could ever question my worth. And I would make damn sure that when I did have children, if I ever could, they would grow up knowing their Mexican heritage was something to be proud of, not something to hide. The next few weeks were a fog. We held a small memorial service for Isabella. Jacob took time off work. His parents sent flowers and cards but kept their distance. Probably because Jacob had told them Michelle wasn't welcome in our home anymore. Michelle sent a text. "I'm sorry if I said something hurtful. I was worried about you." If, the word that makes any apology meaningless. I didn't respond. My mother moved in for 2 weeks, cooking, cleaning, sitting with me, when the grief became too heavy. She told me stories about her own losses, a miscarriage before me, another after, how she'd felt alone in a foreign country, unable to afford good medical care, blamed by people who thought she was too young or too poor or too illegal to be a mother. "But you survived," she said, smoothing my hair, "and you'll survive this too. Las mujeres de nuestra familia are stronger than they know. Women from our family are stronger than they know." One night, unable to sleep, I opened my laptop. I'd been working on a business plan for months, a cultural consulting and translation firm focusing on helping American companies connect with Latino markets. I'd been afraid to launch it, worried about failure, about what Jacob's family would think. Now I didn't care what they thought. I worked until dawn, refining my plan, reaching out to contacts, building a website. By the time Jacob woke up, I had a company. Sanchez Cultural Consulting, LLC. "What's this?" he asked, looking over my shoulder. "My future," I said. "Our future." He kissed my temple. "Then let's build it." The first 6 months of Sanchez Cultural Consulting were brutal. I was still processing grief while cold calling potential clients, designing marketing materials, networking at events where I was often the only non-white person in the room. Jacob helped however he could, introducing me to contacts, letting me use his office space, believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. My first big client was a construction company, ironically, one of Harrison and Sons' competitors, that wanted to expand into Latino neighborhoods, but didn't know how to market respectfully to those communities. I helped them redesign their outreach, hire bilingual staff, and understand cultural nuances. Their business in those areas increased by 40% in 6 months. Word spread. A restaurant chain hired me to consult on their Mexican menu. I helped them move away from Tex-Mex stereotypes and incorporate actual regional Mexican cuisine. A hospital system brought me in to improve their Spanish language services and cultural competency training. A tech company wanted help recruiting Latino talent. By month 8, I had more work than I could handle alone. I hired my first employee, a brilliant Puerto Rican woman named Carmen, who'd been working in corporate translation and hated it. Then a Mexican-American marketing specialist named Diego. Then a Venezuelan accountant named Lucia. We were small but mighty, and we were profitable. Jacob was proud. His parents were impressed. They'd started coming around again, carefully, with apologies for Michelle's behavior. I accepted their presence but kept my distance. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. Michelle, on the other hand, went silent. No more surprise visits. No more family dinners. Jacob said she'd made some comment about being banned from our lives, playing the victim to anyone who would listen. I didn't care. I was too busy building my empire and healing. 1 year after Isabella's death, Jacob and I went to therapy. We talked about the losses, the grief, the strain on our marriage. We discussed whether we wanted to try again for children or whether the trauma was too much. I want to try, I admitted, but I'm terrified. Me too, he said. But I think we can do this. Together. We decided to try one more time. If it didn't work, we'd explore other options, adoption, surrogacy, or accepting a child-free life. No pressure, no family expectations, just us. I found out I was pregnant 2 months later. This time, we told no one. I worked through the first trimester, landing our biggest client yet, a Fortune 500 company that wanted a complete Latino market strategy. The contract was worth $200,000. At 12 weeks, we had a healthy ultrasound. At 16 weeks, another. At 20 weeks, we found out we were having a boy. I cried with relief and terror in equal measure. Jacob suggested we wait until the baby was born to tell family. I agreed immediately. But as I entered my 3rd trimester, healthy and glowing, it became harder to hide. My employees knew. Carmen had thrown me a small shower at the office. My mother knew, lighting candles to La Virgin every week. But the Harrison family remained in the dark until Thanksgiving. We'd avoided family holidays for a year, but Jacob's parents begged us to come. Michelle won't be there, Patricia promised. She's spending Thanksgiving with Brad's family in Seattle. It'll just be us, Jacob's brother Tom and his wife, and a few friends. Please, we miss you. Against my better judgment, I agreed. I was 32 weeks pregnant by then, very obviously showing. I wore a flowing dress that somewhat camouflaged it, but anyone paying attention would notice. The Thanksgiving dinner was at Patricia and James's house, a beautiful craftsman in the West Hills with views of downtown Portland. When we arrived, the house was full of people. Tom and his wife Kelly, some family friends, James's brother and his wife, and Michelle. Surprise! Patricia said nervously, as Michelle walked out of the kitchen carrying a pie. Michelle decided to come last minute. I hope that's okay? Jacob's face went hard. Mom, you promise. It's fine, I interrupted, touching his arm. It's fine. It wasn't fine, But I wasn't going to let Michelle ruin another holiday. I was stronger now, different. Michelle's eyes went immediately to my stomach. I watched realization cross her face, shock, then something uglier. "Evelyn," she said sweetly, "you look different." "I'm pregnant," I said flatly. No apologies, no explanations. The room went quiet. "How far along?" Patricia asked, joy and worry mixing in her voice. 32 weeks. 32 weeks? And you didn't tell us? Michelle's voice had an edge. That's a bit cruel, don't you think? After everything this family has been through? After everything I've been through, I corrected. After you told me my bloodline shouldn't mix with yours while I was lying in a hospital bed with my dead daughter, someone gasped. I think it was Kelly. Michelle's face flushed. I never said that. Yes, you did, Jacob interrupted coldly. Word for word. And that's why you weren't told about this pregnancy. Because you don't deserve to be part of our joy. James, are you going to let him talk to your daughter like that? Michelle appealed to her father. James Harrison, who'd been quiet until now, set down his wine glass. Michelle, you've never apologized for what you said, really apologized. Not that sorry if nonsense. So no, I'm not going to defend you. Michelle's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I think, Patricia said carefully, we should all sit down and have a calm conversation. There's nothing to talk about, I said. Jacob and I came here to be with family who love and respect us. If Michelle can't do that, she can leave. The entire room held its breath. Through the dining room windows, I could see downtown Portland, twinkling in the November dusk, completely oblivious to the showdown happening in this overheated house. Michelle stood taller, her face contorting with years of held-back resentment. You want to know what I really think? Fine. I'll say it. Michelle, don't, Brad warned, but she shook him off. This family built something over 3 generations. We have standards. We have traditions. And then Jacob brings home someone from a completely different world. Choose your next words very carefully, Jacob said, his voice dangerously quiet. Someone whose mother cleaned houses, someone who grew up on welfare, someone who trapped you with a pregnancy. That's enough, Patricia shouted, standing up so quickly her chair fell backward. Michelle Elizabeth Harrison, how dare you speak about Evelyn like that? About Rosa like that? But Michelle was on a roll now, years of fake smiles and passive aggression exploding outward. Why? For telling the truth. That girl's been trying to get her hands on Harrison money since day one, and now she's conveniently pregnant again after 2 convenient miscarriages. The slap echoed through the room. My mother had moved so quickly I didn't see it coming. Neither did Michelle, who stood with her hand on her reddening cheek, shocked into silence. You will not, my mother said in Spanish, then switched to English, her voice shaking with rage. You will never speak about my daughter's dead babies that way. Never. Rosa, I'm so sorry. Patricia moved toward my mother, tears streaming. No. My mother held up her hand. I don't want apologies from you. I want to know, did you raise your daughter to be this cruel? To be this racist? I'm not racist, Michelle shrieked. This has nothing to do with race. Everything you've said for 5 years has been about race. I finally found my voice. Every comment about my affordable wedding dress, every reminder about family money, every look at my mother, every time you emphasized real Harrison grandchild. You think we didn't notice? I walked toward her, and she actually stepped back. You want to know the truth, Michelle? Yes, my mother cleaned houses. She cleaned houses for families like yours while studying English at night. She cleaned houses while raising me alone, making sure I had everything I needed to succeed. She cleaned houses so I could go to college and build a business that's now worth more than your husband makes in 2 years. Michelle's eyes widened. You're lying. Check LinkedIn. Sanchez Cultural Consulting just landed a Fortune 500 contract. We've been featured in Portland Business Journal. We're expanding to Seattle next quarter. I smiled coldly. All this from a girl whose mother cleaned houses. I turned to the rest of the room. Tom and Kelly looked stunned. James was staring at his daughter like he'd never seen her before. Patricia was openly crying. I didn't tell this family about my pregnancy because I didn't want my joy contaminated by people who never wanted me here in the first place. I didn't tell you because my baby's existence isn't up for judgment by someone who thinks bloodlines should stay pure. I placed my hand on my stomach, feeling my son kick. Strong, healthy, alive. This baby, my baby, is half Mexican, half American, and 100% loved. He will grow up knowing his abuela's strength, his father's kindness, and his mother's refusal to accept anyone's bigotry. Including yours, Michelle. Evelyn, James said quietly. I owe you an apology. We all do. We've let Michelle's behavior slide for too long, chalked it up to her being protective of family, when really, he looked at his daughter with disappointment. Really, we've allowed her to be cruel. Dad! Michelle looked betrayed. No, enough. James stood up, walking over to stand beside my mother. Rosa, I'm deeply sorry for how you and Evelyn have been treated in this family. There's no excuse for it. He turned to me. Evelyn, you've been nothing but graceful under pressure that would have broken most people. You've built an incredible business, supported my son, and brought strength to this family, whether Michelle sees it or not. If you'll allow us, Patricia and I would love to be part of your son's life. Real grandparents, not the kind who love with conditions. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not here, not now. We'll see, I said. Respect is earned, and it starts with Michelle being held accountable for her actions. Everyone looked at Michelle, who suddenly found the floor very interesting. I think, Brad said quietly, taking his wife's arm. We should go. For once, Michelle didn't argue. After Michelle and Brad left, the dinner continued, awkward at first, then gradually warming as people began to ask genuine questions about my business, the pregnancy, our plans. My mother and Patricia talked in the kitchen, finding common ground in their shared love for Jacob and me. Tom pulled me aside later. I'm sorry, he said. I always thought Michelle was just intense. I didn't realize how bad it had gotten. People see what they want to see, I replied. But thank you for saying that. Jacob found me on the back porch later, looking at the city lights. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, hands on my belly. You okay? He asked. Better than okay, I said, and meant it. I'm free, because that's what the confrontation had given me. Not revenge, not even justice really. Just freedom. Freedom from caring what Michelle thought. Freedom from proving myself to people who are determined not to see my worth. Freedom to build my family, my business, my life on my own terms. I gave birth to Mateo James Sanchez Harrison at 3:47 a.m. on a rainy March morning. He was healthy, perfect, and had his father's eyes and my mother's nose. Jacob's parents came to the hospital, bringing flowers, tears, and genuine joy. Michelle sent a text. Congratulations. I didn't respond. My mother held her grandson and whispered in Spanish. Tu bisabuela would be so proud. Look how far we've come. Your great-grandmother would be so proud. Look how far we've come. And we had come far. From border crossings to business ownership, from cleaning houses to consulting contracts, from being told our bloodline shouldn't mix to creating a new generation that would be taught to be proud of every part of their heritage. Sanchez Cultural Consulting now has 12 employees and offices in Portland and Seattle. We've been featured in Forbes 30 Under 30 for social entrepreneurship. I speak at conferences about cultural competency and inclusive business practices. But more importantly, I've learned what family really means. It's not about blood or money or keeping traditions pure. It's about showing up for each other, supporting dreams, celebrating differences instead of fearing them. It's about the family you choose, not the one that chooses to judge you. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with toxic family members? Have you ever been told you're not enough because of where you came from? Drop a comment and let me know. Share this if you think someone needs to hear it. And remember, some people will spend their whole lives trying to make you feel small. Don't give them the power. Build something so big, so beautiful, so undeniably successful, that your existence becomes the answer to every doubt they ever had about you. That's not revenge. That's justice. Like and subscribe for more real stories about overcoming, building, and thriving despite the odds. See you in the next one.